Hey friends, over the weekend I asked you all for questions on my Facebook page so that I could make this video, and now I'm going to answer them from the forest. Lucas says, what extreme photo project would you most like to accomplish in the next 5 years? Wishing you a fabulous festive time. Thank you, Lucas. I'd really like to document some of the classic national parks here in the US. In fact, one of my goals for 2017 is to get back to Yellowstone National Park and probably Grand Teton and do a really comprehensive study of it and take a ton of photos and go to all sorts of different places within those parks and create a book that you guys would be able to get your hands on. So if you want to learn more about that, I actually have set up a Patreon page. You can learn more about the goal itself, what you can do to help me with the goal, and all that is at the link above. You know, I feel like these parks my selfie stick is caught in a shrub. I was trying to be philosophical. Anyway, my philosophical thought continues that maybe I should put this in front of me for a minute. I feel like, these parks are they're amazing places, and they've been protected for generations. And, not everybody can get to them. And I would love to be able to share these places with people who can't get to them. And I'd also like to, for people who can get to them, I'd like to give you guys some ideas, send you on the right path. Because at a lot of these places, there's so much to do. They're so huge. It's almost like you couldn't possibly do everything in one trip. So I would like to narrow everything down for you, show you lots of different places, but so that you can narrow it down and go and, create memories of your own there. So Kevin says, Merry Christmas. Maybe I should stop while I'm reading this. Kevin says, Merry Christmas. If you could choose only 3 prime lenses to take on a trip to use on a full-frame DSLR, so it's a holiday, what 3 prime lenses would you take? I was thinking 20mm, 35mm, and 85mm. And then Gordon said, I would like to know this too. And then Michael said, for a full-frame camera, I'd substitute the 35mm with a 50mm prime lens. For me, of the prime lenses I own, I would say 24mm f2.8D lens, the 50mm f1.8G lens, and my 105mm f2.8D lens. That's a macro lens as well. I think that would cover it for me, but if I were going to break your rule of 3 lenses, I would add in the 35mm f2D lens that I have. Okay, Albert says, 2-part question. I know, sunlight, good gracious. I know you use the Nikon D810 and have had a Nikon D800 camera. Have you ever thought about getting a Nikon D5? What does the D800 do for you that the D5 doesn't? Just curious. Next, have you ever thought about getting a battery grip for your D810? I have one for my Canon 7D and love it. Well, the D5 it's a behemoth. Which is kind of a negative for me. The D500 and the D810, they cover all my needs. So, in smaller packages. So I'm happy with them. As for battery grips, I have had battery grips in the past. I find that I don't use them all that much. I like the idea of them. I love having the extra battery life. A lot of times it's handy to have the the shutter release and the portrait orientation. However, I just find that I don't use them all that much. And I would almost rather just have, you know, an extra battery and stop and just put the battery in my camera when I needed to. Now, Diego says, what is the best camera between Canon and Nikon? Oh, Diego. According to your experience, if you have to buy a camera, but not for professional use, he says medium to high experience, what camera and model would you buy? Thanks and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too, Diego. And I have to say neither. Neither one is better, that is. There are different needs for different people. Everybody has a different preference. I would suggest, if you're going to, try and figure out between Nikon and Canon, to go to a store and get them in your hands. See which one feels better in your hands. See which one you feel like, you can use more easily, because usually you're going to find that one or the other makes more sense to you or feels more comfortable in your hands, because they do feel a little bit different. When it comes to deciding amongst, the lineup of Canon or Nikon, it's going to depend on your needs. However, I almost always say, save a little money on the body and save some money for lenses later on, or other accessories that you might find that you'll want. Your lens is going to make more of a difference than the body itself. And also, your timing, your light, and your location are going to make more of a difference than what gear you have in your hands. Michael says, when purchasing a camera and lens, do you focus your money on the body or the lens? Looking at a used D7100 and a 35mm f1.8G. Well, this is a timely question. As I just mentioned to Diego, I almost always would say lenses. There are things that I personally look for in a body. I look for a certain amount of responsiveness. I like to have a certain control scheme amongst the Nikon cameras. A lot of times I'll choose Nikon just because that's what I have and that's what I use. But really, like I said before, it's your timing, your light, and your location that's really going to make the difference for you. Battery type is also a factor for me. I love that my D500, my D810, my V1 all have the same battery type. So I have a whole gaggle of those batteries. I can keep them all charged up. And then when I'm ready to go, I can just grab one out of the pile and head out. In fact, I've had an extra charged up battery in this backpack, in my Camelback here, for weeks, because I've been shooting with different camera bodies throughout the holiday season, and it's just easiest for me to have an extra battery in there just in case. Okay, Jason asks, thanks for all the great info and content over the past year. I've enjoyed your picks, techniques, and ideas. Have a happy Christmas. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope you are having a happy holiday season as well. I actually have some, I just almost fell down. It's all snowy right here. I actually have a photo shoot coming up. It'll be posted later this week. It's my last Happy December photo shoot, and I hope you like it. Now, Chris wants to know, what influenced you to get into photography? Was it a whim, or has there been someone's work that really caught your attention, or is it possibly closer tied than that, such as a close relative that provided influence and or coaching? I've just always loved having a camera in my hand. There's this picture in my head of a picture of me when I was, probably in the 4th or 5th grade, and I have my old neon yellow camera in my hand, and I'm taking a picture, and I have my hip cocked out, and I just fancied myself to be a fine photographer. That being said, I couldn't afford film because I was a kid. So I didn't take a lot of pictures, but I just thought that I was awesome. It really wasn't until my high school, my senior year in high school, that I fell into an art history class mid-semester, and it wasn't something that I even wanted to take. I didn't think that I was good at art. I didn't think that I liked art. And this teacher introduced me to my passion, and it all kind of rolled from there. I studied art history in college, and I did work some office jobs, but from there is probably really where it started. Now Guido asks, I have been looking at a Canon T6S bundled with an assortment of lenses along with other items. Is this line from Canon a good hobby camera for shooting night photos as well as video? As well as getting it, like I mentioned, bundled with all the other items? Or is it better to purchase just the body, then grow from there? It's a good question. Bundles are great. Bundles are tempting because a lot of times you can save money with them. If you're getting your feet wet though, with a DSLR or with photography in general, I usually suggest going small. Just get a camera and maybe one lens and see how it goes. Because you might find that you like you might find that you just like that and you don't need anything else. You might find that you want to go a certain way, like, oh, I really wish I had telephoto. That's where it's at. That's where I want to go. Or you might find that you really just want like a speed light and you want to get into doing some, flash portraiture or something. So, I always put the caveat that, I usually suggest, because everyone's different. And if you want the bundle and you want all the goodies, do it, go for it. And, see how you like it all. Okay, now John wants to know, is the 4K video anything you would work with, or is the art of photography end all be all for you? Well, I've done a few videos in 4K. I have a few 4K capable cameras, such as the iPhone that I'm shooting on, though it's not in 4K right now. I also have the D500, and I have a little action cam that I reviewed that they all have 4K and some capability of 4K. And it can get you great crisp video. I am a still photographer at heart, but I have definitely gotten the video bug in the last few months. So you'll probably be seeing more video from me in the coming year. I should say, before I finish with this question and fall down, video in general, whether it be 4K or any other resolution, it takes, just like still photography, time, planning, and preparation, and experience. So that's one thing I should say. 4K isn't it for me. I feel like you can get great video even if you aren't using 4K. Mark asks, what would you like to see in terms of new and exciting photography technology in 2017? Well, I always like to see the disruptors and the game changers. The larger brands tend to stay away from that, but I guess really that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see one of the big brands do something, maybe with regard to video. Some of the other brands, some of the smaller brands out there have really focused on video, and maybe that's what I would like to see in the future, in the coming year, is for one of those big brands to really take a leap, maybe even leapfrog ahead of those other brands in terms of video. Sagar says, question, I have Nikon D750 and 24 to 70 millimeter Nikon lens. My lens got 3 spots fungus. 1, will it affect photos while shooting? And 2, how can I clean? Well, I'd like to say that it's unlikely that it'll affect your photos, but I can't promise that. The only way for you to tell is to take some photos. And then you asked about cleaning, right? I would have to say that first of all, I've never had to deal with it, so I can't give you any firsthand experience on it. It is my understanding it is not easy to clean, and probably I would suggest taking it to professional, your local camera shop, or sending it into Nikon. Look, I'm at a pretty little stream. Can you guys see that? Pretty. Anyway, Renee says, are you planning some trips overseas in 2017 to shoot places and people or to do a photo shoot with co-photographers? Well, my obsession right now is getting back to Yellowstone. So I don't have any plans to go overseas necessarily. However, once this book is published for Yellowstone, the sky's the limit. And I do have a friend who in the next year or so should be getting married in Norway, and we'll see what I can do about getting there. Jeremy says, having visited Flagstaff from the UK this year, is there anywhere better for coffee and breakfast than the amazing Macy's? Bed. The only place better than Macy's is Bed for coffee. And yes, Macy's is pretty great. Another place that I like is Mix. It's downtown and they have coffee out for you to refill as many times as you want and free Wi-Fi. And their menu is great too. Now, Art wants to know, have you ever thought of visiting Vancouver for a photo shoot? It's such a beautiful city. That's what I've heard, and I would definitely like to get there sometime. Now, Pete wants to know, what do you think the next big advancement in DSLR cameras will be? This is kind of similar to the question that Mark asked me earlier about what I wanted to see. But now that it's kind of been percolating in the back of my head, I wonder if maybe they can't or won't rip that mirror out of the cropped sensor and full frame DSLRs, but keep the overall speed and handling and flexibility. Now, Jules wants to know, do you have any comment on or experience with the GoPro Karma Grip? No, but I have something extremely similar in headquarters right now that I'll be reviewing for you soon. Martin says, Merry Christmas. Thank you, Martin, and Happy New Year to you. Ian says, Merry Christmas and Happy and Prosperous New Year. You too, Ian. Michael says, what did you think of Rogue One? I have to hold my judgment on this one for now, because I went to one of those fancy serve you dinner while you watch the movie type of theaters, and I had a really bad experience. I was distracted because the server was talking to me, and anyway, it's a long story, but I need to go see it again in a regular theater and maybe get some red vines and a Coca-Cola. Now, Elliot says, great shot. And he's talking about the photo that I posted with my call for questions on Facebook. So thank you, Elliot. And that's all for today, everyone. Well, that's all for this year, everybody. At least for questions. I will be back later this week for my last Happy December photo shoot. And of course, I'll be around on social media answering your guys' questions. Search for me as SnapChick if you haven't found me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And that's it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday season and everyone has a Happy New Year. I'll talk to you later.